Hello again. This video is going to be a bit of a change of pace in that it's not going to be a pipe project as such, but a quick look at a tool that I use in pipe repair, specifically stem making, and figure that there's probably a few of you that would like to have something like this, and since it's ridiculously inexpensive to make one, you literally make it out of scrap. If you could find some wood, a few nuts and bolts, you can probably make it for $5. So anyway, figured it was worth a quick video, and I'll do them from time to time on different odd tools, things that you're not likely to come across anywhere else. Okay, before I jump into this, I'll review something real quick that'll set the stage for how and why this works the way it does. This type of stem here, it's a long pipe, right? This started out as a, well, it still is, you can swap it out. This is a church warden pipe, and the owner found himself not smoking it as often as he expected because of the length of the stem. This is quite a large church warden. It's like 14 inches or whatever that is. Anyway, wanted a shorter stem. Fine. The catch with long stems, of course, is making them. Big surprise. If you've ever tried to make a stem that's, I don't know how long this is, doesn't matter, 6 inches maybe. You ever made a stem that long, or this long, gosh, you know how difficult it is to keep the surfaces straight. And the reason being something I've discussed before with you called dwell factor. You take this kind of a tool, wrap some sandpaper around it, and start going this way to try to shape the stem. Material removal. I'm not talking about final sanding in preparation for polishing. I'm talking about material removal. If you do it this way, you'll run into trouble with a sag in the center. It's a dwell time artifact, and it's much easier just to not mess with it and to go side to side. So again, this is all a review. I've told you this kind of stuff many times, several times anyway, that in order to keep this thing dead straight and avoid the sags and the roll and like a waviness in it, come at it from the side and check frequently with one of these blocks, or if you don't have a block, give it a quick polish and sight down it, that kind of thing. Well, that's all well and good for a normal sized stem or normal length stem. When they start getting into this length, it's a long, tedious process to go side to side. And furthermore, you get all of the little facets that are part and parcel of working with a flattened surface like this. So, what you want is something that will wrap around the surface and is wide enough that the dwell time, well, you can still come at it from the side. Anyway, I'll show you. It's easier to see it than to try to explain it. This is a hammock sander, a 2x10 with some blocks bolted to it, and a strip of this oxide sandpaper. You can get this stuff in anywhere from like 60 grit, maybe up to, I don't know, 320. At like McMaster Car. I'm sure they sell it so that people can glue the ends together and make belts for like knife grinders and stuff. But you can buy it in boxes. It's not very expensive. Cut the length you want and have it actually loose. And then you take the pipe. Now you have to pay attention. You don't just start in, but you learn how to use this thing with a diagonal rolling motion. Like so. And you'll find that you can remove material quite quickly and very accurately. You learn the tool, you practice with it, but you'll figure out that whatever you want to do will translate into pressure. And you remember, you can have pressure left and right like this. You can have total pressure, downward pressure. You can control the angle that you can go to 45 degrees or more doing it like this. You can control how slack the belt is by how tight you clamp it up. You control the grit of the paper that you put on there. And last but not least, I've got several sets of holes on this. This is the medium length one, but you can make this thing 3 feet long if you want and get really efficient that way. And so you can control the length of the belt as well. This type of tool, when you're doing a long stem, is, well, I've got a belt grinder and a bunch of fancy files and stuff, and I still use this. That'll tell you how good it is, or should tell you how good it is. And this I had long before I had any of that fancy stuff. In my early days, I needed a way to do something more efficiently than nail boards and so on, and cook this up as a result. It now does not get used nearly as much because I've got a knife grinder and some other stuff. But in cases like this one, oh howdy, yeah, this is the hot setup. This is the way to go. You'll be at this all week if you're doing it with one of these. Okay, so that's it. That's the tool. And I'll quickly take a piece of it apart for you just to show you how it's built. The bottom of this thing is nothing more. You can see what do you call these, carriage head bolts. And this thing comes apart. What's the best way to do it? Yeah, that's probably about right. So, wing nuts, you don't need any tools for any of this. You don't need wrenches, sockets, nothing. You can do it by hand. Wing nuts, a pair of fender washers, and these carriage bolts. And the rest is just how many sets of holes do you want to drill. And on this end, we've got more wing nuts, pushing down on, in this case, it's aluminum angle. It could be steel. Aluminum tends to bite a little better and doesn't take as much pressure to keep sandpaper from slipping. So this is just a piece of aluminum angle, and the washer on the top is to keep so that the wing nut rotates smoothly when you start to tighten it. Otherwise it would bite it would gall into the aluminum and start getting snaggy. And this guy here is 2 more carriage bolts that are countersunk so that this thing can move smoothly on the bottom, and some deck screws holding in a sandwich of plywood. That's it. I don't remember now how long it took to make it, but it wasn't very long. If you can make a pipe, or if you can repair a pipe, you can sure make one of these. The only thing you need to remember, don't try to make it from a 2x4. You'll get too much side to side tipping. Make it out of something wider. And then mount these paper pedestal things, whatever you want to call them, on whichever side your master hand is. And if you're left-handed, you want them on the left side, and right-handed, right side. The reason being, unless you make those towers very high, you're going to be swinging the bowl like so as you roll it, rotate it, and it'll clank into this board. So you want to have it hanging off the edge. That makes sense. I'm sure you can see what I meant by that. I can't illustrate it any better. So Anyway, that's it. Whatever works, works. If you can figure out a better way to make the same thing, feel free to let me know what that is, because I think it's the whole idea here is just to give you ideas that you can implement for your own shop. So that is it. I've got more of this type of information that I'll be putting out periodically, and more pipe projects, of course, coming up. You'll notice I tend to do these things in somewhat in bunches, several in a few weeks' time, and then none for a month or two. And the reason is I've got some health stuff going on, so I kind of ebb and flow in terms of energy level and getting stuff done. So I've been feeling a little better lately, and feel like making some more of these tapes. So there you go. Alrighty then. Take care.